Hey there, guys. So yeah, David Benavidez versus Demetrius Andrade. Fairly interesting fight. It's not exactly the fight I would have chosen for David Benavidez. Next, I would have much preferred to see him fight David Morrell, as I think David Morrell actually has a fairly good chance of beating him. That's probably the best fight that can be made at the super middleweight division, in my opinion. Um, Pretty much very close to a 50-50 fight, in my opinion. And yeah, if Morrell is as good as what he's shown so far based on eye test, I think he has a very good chance of beating Benavidez, a better chance than Andrade has, in my opinion. But I suppose it's good to see Andrade fight someone with a pulse for once. Um, his best wins so far are probably Liam Williams, who I do rate, but who fought very poorly in that fight, and his second best win is probably someone like Jack Kulkai, who he's sort of European level, never really done anything at world level. So yeah, it's good to see Andrade fight someone who people consider world level for once. Obviously, a lot of people are comparing this fight to Benavidez's fight with Caleb Plant. And yeah, it's a good comparison to make. Andrade and Plant are fairly similar. They're not exactly, they're not exact replicas of each other, but both are fairly negative. Both box on the back foot. Both are quite athletic, and they have some of the same attributes. If you compare Andrade to Caleb Plant, for example, I'd probably say Andrade has slightly better defense, and he does have the southpaw advantage, but because Plant, he does get hit quite a lot when he's fighting someone who's taller than him. When Plant fights someone who is like a brawler type like Feigenbutz or Mike Lee, for example, he tends to look really good in those fights, and he's really able to outbox those guys and win every round. But when you fight someone who's taller than him and has a reach advantage, you look at the fights against Uzcategui, where he got busted up. He got his face, he got numerous cuts, and he was just busted up at the end of that fight. And obviously David Benavidez was able to beat him up in the later rounds. So I'd say Andrade has better defense than Plant, and a southpaw can be tricky for a lot of fighters. But to be honest, I'd say Caleb Plant probably hits a bit harder than Andrade. Andrade was never really been a big puncher. Even when he was at light middleweight, 154 pounds, he was never really a knockout artist. He went the distance with guys like Jack Kulkai, and he's been going the distance with guys like Atlantis Fox. And he tends to score knockdowns. Like, if he's going to score a knockdown, it's usually in the early rounds. But he's never really able to capitalize on it. He's never really able to stop his best opponents. Like, he's gone the distance with like Solecki, Kulkai, Liam Williams. A lot of other guys have taken him into the later rounds, like the Irish guy who he fought a couple of years ago. So I wouldn't say Andrade has as much power as Plant. I can't see him knocking out the likes of Anthony Durrell or knocking down Uzcategui twice. I just can't see it. Plant is a more natural super middleweight. He's been at super middleweight his whole career, whereas Andrade, he started at 154 pounds and he's made his way up. Plant's probably naturally the bigger man. I'd say Plant is a bit quicker in terms of hand speed, and he throws his punches straighter, which is an advantage. Andrade tends to loop his punches. He throws a lot of looping hooks, which are obviously easier to see than straight punches. I'd say Plant is probably a bit tougher. He's never really shown a major chin issue, whereas Andrade has been down numerous times in his career. He was down against the likes of Martirosyan and went down against Atlantis Fox. Probably should have been knocked down in his last fight against Nicholson. And I don't think he's like the toughest. I think he got hurt quite badly by Liam Williams. I believe it was in the 10th round or something like that. So I don't think he's the toughest fighter in the world. And I don't think he will be able to really get Benavidez his respect. I don't think he has the power necessary to really hurt Benavidez. Benavidez is very, very big for one super middleweight. He really takes advantage of being young and being able to make that weight and rehydrate, because he's massive for the weight. He's your typical weight bully, really, really big for the weight. And he's shown a granite chin in his career so far. He's never really been badly hurt. I mean, I know he was down by Gavril in the first fight, but that was just, a footwork issue, and it was just a jab when he was pretty gassed. No one's really been able to crack him, and dissuade him from coming in. Look at the Plant fight, for example. Plant wasn't really able to get any respect from Benavidez at all. Andrade, like Plant, seems to have stamina issues. Andrade looks very good in the first. This is something that people say about Andrade all the time. He tends to look good in the first, say, 4 rounds of a fight. He'll usually have early success, like he'll score an early knockdown, like he did against Liam Williams and Jason Quigley, and guys like that. But by the end, after the first couple of rounds, say, he'll usually fade late in fights, and he'll usually become a lot more negative than he was in the first couple of rounds, where he was really opening up, and he'll just be sort of on his bike, just boxing on the back foot. And I don't think Andrade is really going to have the durability to trade with Benavidez. I don't think he's going to be able to, because if he's going to, get his respect, he's going to have to really set his feet, stand in front of Benavidez and try and crack him. But obviously, if he's doing that, he's going to take the risk of being hit by, a combination from Benavidez. And I wouldn't say Benavidez is like the biggest puncher in the world, but being that big for the weight and having that thudding power that he has, he was able to hurt Caleb Plant a couple of times in the fight, and he'll definitely be able to hurt Andrade, in my opinion. I think Benavidez will definitely be able to get to Andrade with his power. And the way I see this fight going, I think Andrade will have quite a lot of success in the early rounds. Benavidez tends to be quite a slow starter. In the Plant fight, I thought he lost the first couple of rounds, and then really came on strong late. And Benavidez has done that throughout his career. Like in the Anthony Jarrell fight, I thought he started a bit slow in that fight. And he's just a guy who takes quite a while to get going. So in the early rounds, I can see Andrade, being able to land quite consistently. I can see him having quite a lot of success. But by about round 5 or 6, I think Benavidez will start to really up the work rate. I think he'll start to break him down systematically, and he'll just start chipping away round by round. And I'd say by the later rounds, I think Andrade will be fairly spent, because Benavidez will be breaking him down. And I can see a David Benavidez late stoppage. I think that's very likely in this fight. I don't think Andrade will have the chin to last the distance. I don't think he'll have the stamina. Maybe he could do what Plant did and just hold and hold and hold, and just his way to making the distance. But I don't see it. I don't think he'll really be able to. I don't think he'll be able to tough it out like Caleb Plant was able to do. And obviously when you fight someone like Benavidez, who's very big, and comes forward on the front foot constantly, you need to be able to hurt them. Like Miguel Cotto versus Margarito, for example. Cotto wasn't able to hurt Margarito, so he was just able to walk through him and stop him late. And I think it's probably going to be the same situation here. I think Benavidez by a late stoppage. And yeah, Andrade's getting on a bit now. He's about 35. Probably his best days are behind him. So yeah, I think Benavidez by a late stoppage is the safe bet. Possibly on points, but I'd say rounds 10 or 11, something like that. Benavidez will stop him, probably on his feet by accumulation. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thanks for watching, and God bless.